This week on Artificially Informed, AI is helping hackers find holes before your IT team even shows up for work. Schools are learning that cyber attacks don't care about final exams, and China just raised $2 billion, proving the AI race is no longer just about who's got the best model. It's about the best deal. This week and more on this week's edition, or sorry, this and more on this week's edition of Artificially Informed. Alrighty then, I'm Logan Edmond, CEO of TTS Cyber, and your host.
Patrick Herter with Your Network Security.
All right, Patrick. Well, we say this every week, but it's been an exciting week in AI because every week has to be exciting. Yay!
Yeah, I think the only thing going faster are NASCAR drivers.
I was gonna say I was on vacation the last couple of weeks, so I was on a roller coaster or two, and I really do feel like the roller coaster analogy for AI is apt in that can be both fun but also terrifying, and it feels more like a roller coaster that has a squeaky wheel you can feel underneath it. Like you ever seen the Ralph Wiggum's meme? I'm in danger. Well, let's dive in right to our top story this week, and this is a biggie one. So, cyber criminals just upgraded their "quote unquote" research department is the headline for this week's subject. Google says cyber criminals likely used AI to discover and weaponize a previously unknown zero-day "quote unquote" we'll talk about that in a second vulnerability. One of the first confirmed examples of AI actively helping undercover hidden software weaknesses be discovered. The attack targeted a popular web-based administration tool and could have bypassed two-factor authentication when paired with a stolen login credential. Google detected this threat early, notified the software provider, and helped patch the flaw before widespread damage occurred. Keyword being widespread. And for business owners, the biggest issue is speed. I'm going to pause there. What was your thoughts when you read this story?
Yeah, it's not like this kind of attack is new. We've seen this against other different platforms in the past, but the fact that it's paired with AI and who knows how fast it could be replicated once in the wild, that's a big change.
I mean, for me, I was looking at this and going, what strikes me about AI is self-fulfilling prophecy happens at record speed. Like normally when you talk to people, hey, this is going to happen in the future, you see your prophecy, if you're correct and you're convicted, you have to say that for like 6 months, a year, 18 months, and then it finally happens, like big trendsetters, right? We've been talking about mythos and AI-powered threat detection and exploitation for about a month and a half, and we're saying this is coming any day. Lo and behold, here we go. This is a big one, right? Like it's now detected in the wild and being used. So the context here is, like you said, this is not a new thing. What's terrifying is the scale problem. So vulnerabilities have been a problem for probably over 20 years now, I'd say at this point, where we're going into 2-decade territory where, people figure out how to make software and web platforms and products that are in the cloud and on local devices do stuff they're not supposed to do or give access they're not supposed to give. And that's been a problem forever. Like it's one of the main things hackers who are more on the R&D side spend their time on is how can I make this thing do something it's not supposed to do. And we've been in this cat and mouse race for better part of 2 decades where, hackers figure out or researchers figure out how to make a piece of software or a platform give access or do something it's not supposed to do. The provider patches the problem, and then everyone who uses the tool, if it's not like a cloud-based solution, has to then apply that patch on their systems, and on we go, rinse and repeat. What's terrifying about this is, the exploit wasn't a simple one. Like reading the article and going through this, like it had a fair amount of complexity to it. B, it was instantaneous. And AI can chain and exploit a vulnerability at a speed and frequency that humans just can't replicate for a variety of reasons. And they can do it at mass, where before it might have taken a cyber criminal, a lot of time to figure out how to do this. The implication behind the research that Google's releasing and what we're hearing from Anthropic and all these AI researchers is it's really not that hard for an AI to do it. The AI doesn't need nearly as much time or nearly as much effort to figure out how to chain stuff together. And that terrifies the bejesus out of me.
Yeah. And, one of the things with cyber response is timing, and you have to have a system that detects good versus bad behavior, take action on that without disrupting business with false positives. And 7 seconds from identification to locking down an account used to be way fast enough, or even 10 minutes, not much that long ago, to lock down an account that was had a suspicious sign in. But now, if you chain that stuff with AI, how far can they get in just a matter of seconds?
I mean, seriously. Hold on a second. I just realized we are streaming on the wrong platform. The other problem is fixing this stuff is not as you kind of put this on there, but I want to really reiterate this. Fixing it is not as simple as detecting and exploiting it. It's really easy to do with an AI. The opposite is not necessarily true, at least not yet. I can't just stick an AI on my environment and say, "Cool, go fix all the problems." Right? Like it doesn't work that way as much as I might want it to. So we have humans now racing against a robot that can hit us every day, all day. That is bad. It's going
For
to create a
sure.
lot of work, and I don't know if we're going to be able to keep up. Even us internally, like we talked about this internally, we're seeing so much more vulnerabilities on a weekly basis now, like 4 or 5x we were this time a month ago.
Yeah, and didn't you just say earlier today that summer's coming up? A lot of people are on vacation. Things kind of slow down for a lot of people. You didn't mean us, apparently.
No, apparently not. Seriously. Well, let's talk about this next story then. So, speaking of which, let's move to. I like free Wi-Fi. That's what I'm
Oh
gonna.
yeah.
That's the worst segue in the world, but I like free Wi-Fi. But then I read this and I said, "Oh, explain to me why free Wi-Fi isn't necessarily free."
Oh, nothing really is free in this world. This is one of those topics, the dangers of public Wi-Fi and being at the coffee shop just doing your work has been used and marketed for a lot of products. You've got your,
Over 10 years
private
now.
VPN
Over
services.
10 years.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
how many VPN ads do you get saying, "Hey, you're not
loads.
protected. Use it." NordVPN, like
Right.
not hashtag not a sponsor. We're open. I'm just saying we're open to it.
But to be honest, I live in a small town area, and I have my biases. This is a bit academic, a bit marketing driven, is what it seemed to be. But I feel like with AI, you're taking these old concepts that were very academic and very niche, and you're dusting them off, and you're finding ways to make them a risk, even in the smallest town. Not even just from other people in the cafe, but just your quasi savvy or not even so savvy employee.
I mean, I the biggest it's one of those curves where it's like people who know nothing about this problem use a VPN, don't ask questions. People are
Right.
kind of okay with this problem. I don't need a VPN. I'll just, I got HTTPS, all things encrypted, and then they don't use it. And then the scale comes down. People who really understand this problem use a VPN, right? Like it's there's a life cycle here. And I think one of the key things you need to understand is as we secure more, there is a real risk at the edges of the networks that we're in, right? Like on localized
Mhm.
networks. If you're in a group, and I have this happen, right? Like one time I got a call and I had a client that was hit with a man in the middle attack where someone on a local Wi-Fi network had hacked his laptop. He was working at a coffee shop off of Ohio State campus. Some student decided to, probably put a Raspberry Pi somewhere where
Mhm.
nobody could see it and got in and got good stuff off his computer. And he just wanted to go get a cup of coffee and work. It does happen, as you know. So
Yep.
yeah, what would you say to people who need? What do they need to do? Let's bring this to a close. Like, what's the solution here as far as steps they should be taking to protect themselves?
To have a corporate based, enterprise based VPN service for work, lockdown important, vital resources in your business so that you can't just access them publicly. And there's multiple steps. And you can make it to be where it's not a huge burden on end users, but make it so that there's multiple steps to get in and get behind locked doors.
I would add, hey, also lock your screen when you're at a coffee shop when you walk away, and turn on encryption features like File Vault on Mac and BitLocker on Windows
Oh yeah.
devices. So if someone actually steals your laptop while you're using the restroom, at least the only thing you're worrying about is a stolen laptop and not the data that's on
Or take the chance of dropping into the toilet. Take it with you.
it. Yeah, I did a hygiene, wash hands.
I did.
No,
No.
no. This is why we have signs in the bathroom. But you're the reason why. Dang it. Okay. Well, moving on. We need to talk about this. This was big news last week, and apparently Congress agreed with me. But the headline is Hackers Treat Canvas like an open book exam. And the U.S. House Committee of Homeland Security is demanding testimony from the company behind Canvas and Structure regarding the two cyber attacks they apparently suffered or allegedly suffered from the same attacker. The breach, for context for our audience, exposed sensitive student and staff data from thousands of educational institutions and schools and disrupted schools nationwide during what time of year is it, Patrick?
Exam time.
It's exam time. It's exam season. This is finals for colleges. State testing for high school, and I mean, one of our clients, literally, we have a nonprofit school, and they were like, "Yeah, we can't talk at all last 2 weeks because we're in the middle of exam season." Worst time this could happen. So what happened here, and as a brief story, and I had a chance to kind of do a deep dive on this. It does look like this was the extortion campaign tactic. So there's a company called Canvas. It is a product called Canvas. It is powered by a company called Instructure. They in turn power the LMS learning software platforms of all kinds of educational institutions, right? Schools, tutoring, higher ed, primary education, and of course anything that involves kids. Always, I would say, as a nation, we're pretty numb to data breaches most of the time. There is a carve out and exception for every rule, and I think kids are the rules when it comes to this, right? Like, students were impacted by this attack. Data was taken on students specifically. So, and the big insult to injury, Canvas was hit, or Instructure was hit once. They announced, "Oh, we took care of it. We got them out," and then they were hit again the same week, apparently based on the defacing on the website by the same attack group. Now,
Yeah,
what did that attack group want? Go ahead, Patrick.
Oh, a number of times, some of the really big name breaches that have occurred in the last couple of years, when you hear, we got it, yes, it was a breach, but it's taken care of. I'm always like, let's wait 24 hours.
Maybe not. And honestly, what do they want? Well, the answer is what every criminal wants: money. Rather than ransom the product, quote unquote, right? Like, ransomware, as we traditionally talked, I think most of our audience will understand, is someone locks your computer or locks your environment, makes it unusable through encryption. That's actually been kind of mostly declining. I won't say it's gone away, but it's definitely declining. They just disrupted the business. I would call this extortionware, where they kept extorting the company. Hey, we're going to keep making a PR nightmare for you. We're going to keep disrupting your services. We're going to keep making it so we keep getting back in until you pay us to go away. And reports allegedly lay out they paid them. Instructure paid the attackers, allegedly, who were shiny hunters, to go away, which does not bode well, I think, for the future of this kind of thing. This sets an example. On one hand, I feel for Instructure. I get it. It's a business decision. On the other hand, you've just made probably a multi-million-dollar precedent of what attackers can get if they persist hard enough on making you get hit hard enough.
Yeah. And that's even more damaging to reputation, is when you claim publicly that it's taken care of and attackers prove that that's not the case. When do you trust the all clear?
Yeah, I don't envy Canvas or Instructure right now. They're in a tough position. They just paid millions of dollars, suffered a huge PR hit, and now Congress the U.S. House Committee is literally calling on them to come before the Homeland Security. Sorry, the U.S. House Committee on Homeland Security to testify under oath. Talk about a worst case scenario. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about AI in everyday life. This one, I think everyone and their mom saw happening, but it's still weird and messy. And yeah, what was your take on this one? The headline being, it's complicated with AI, the fastest growing relationship status.
Can't this just go away? It just isn't gonna go away. And yeah, you're right. We all know it. It's pervasive. It's the industry that's going to be the most profitable and the front runner in all of this, because it gives everybody what ultimately they think they want. And the consequences are long term and take a long time to figure out. And by the time you do, it's kind of too late. Relationships with AI, it's It's easy because it was designed to be helpful. All models are designed to be helpful. I mean, otherwise, would you sign on to a chat that's like, I'm not going to help you with this today. Do your
I
own
like
research.
I like the GPT plugin, and I think they discontinued it. I
Oh
have to check.
yeah,
But ChatGPT had the Monday plugin, which was
yeah.
basically, well, what happens if a
Oh, that was
model
awful.
just hates your guts? And that
Yeah,
was the one I was like, this is a weird experience. The AI was
yeah.
antagonistic. Um,
I used that for about 10 minutes, and even I was like, no.
y- abusive relationship with the robot. That's what I thought in my head. I mean, I look at this. Unfortunately, though, you're right. There's no stopping this. If you give the general public access to something that is meant to simulate human connection, and there is always a population of people who are, wanting and needing human connection, and this simulates it on demand, in a way that I don't think any technology previously has ever been able to do. Weird stuff is going to happen. We talked last week, I think, about teenagers and like their relationships with this stuff as well.
Mhm.
Like, I don't. This is one of the areas where I'm afraid to kind of prophesy the future of where we end on this because I can't see the end result being good or bad. I just don't have a good grasp on it, right? Like how
Yeah.
are we going to, as a society, adjust to this new facet of existence?
Yeah, I do a lot of study on entitlement and narcissism, and this is going to feed that. And I think what we already deal with, especially in the Western culture and in first world nations, where we already have everything at our fingertips. Things like Amazon now that can bring you your products within minutes. You're just about to the point where you can get it before you even ask. And we've got an article coming up that kind of touches on something like that. It's going to change society, this aspect of it. And I don't know if it's for the better, but it's inevitable.
Yeah. I mean,
Not to be the downer, man. I feel like I'm
no,
always the downer on these.
no, and I agree with what you're saying. Like, honestly, AI is part of a relation status. Like there's so many drawbacks and there's so many benefits, and I can't. The scale right now is fluxing back and forth. You imagine like two sets
Mhm.
of scales. Like there's a lot of real benefits even on as a cognitive like soundboard. Like you and I have used it both that way, right? Like, hey, I have
Yep.
to get some feedback loops to get me the coach correctly or to think through my work. Like that's a pro versus what we're seeing with like distortions of perception of reality, like AI
Mm.
hallucination, AI psychosis, right? Like that's been
Right.
a thing that's more and more media is relying on. Like the pendulum, the scale keeps shifting back and forth on pros and cons of this specific aspect of life, and I don't have a good beat on it. I just know it's
Yep.
I know it's going to be something I have to get my head around, especially someone with kids who are going to be growing up in a world that's going to be
Yeah.
saturated with this stuff.
Yep,
Like
and mark my words, AI psychosis was swept under a rug as a term last year, and it's going to come back with a vengeance
I mean,
someday.
you can't avoid it either. I'll say on that as last thing. Like, I really mean that. Like, my daughter literally, there's an Alexa dot in our house, and one of the things I had that weirded me out, but it's I guess harmless. Is just one every night. Sometimes she talks about her day to Alexa. Hi, Alexa. This is what I did today. She's 5, right? And the Alexa because it's AI powered and I don't know with whatever bot they have there. It's pretty intuitive. It's like she's talking to her little buddy. Like, this is what I did today. I love doing these things, right? I'm like, my 5-year-old is already growing up in a world like that. That's it's here.
Wow.
It's not a future. A lot of pressure on the parenting side of things, but we will leave it
Very
at
much so.
that. All right, moving on to our next headline in the business and finance section. This one's kind of interesting because I think this is actually indicative of a future we can start predicting in towards. So, China's AI discounts are costing competitors billions, is the headline. And essentially, boiling the article down, there is a company called Moonshot AI. It's based out of Beijing, China, and it's behind the Kimi open weight language models. It just raised $2 billion, which is not insignificant amount of fun in this day and age, at a $20 billion valuation, as demand for affordable AI alternatives accelerates. So, again, talk about
Mm.
rapid timeline to fulfillment of future. We've been talking for a couple of years now about how AI is heavily subsidized by venture capital, token usage, the actual compute required to power these things. Like your $20 subscription to ChatGPT or to Claude Pro is not even helping them break even, right? Like they are actively losing money on you every day just to get you hooked.
Yeah.
Well, we're moving in a world where that ability to do that is rapidly disappearing. We are going to have to start. And Anthropic started making notes on this. I know OpenAI said things like we have to charge more, guys, and we're going to be raising prices. And they want to move into a world, and I think it will happen, where instead of a flat rate subscription, you are going to pay per usage. Basically, if you use more per month, you pay more per month. You use less per month, you pay less per month, based around something called token usage. Patrick, you want to take a stab at explaining what a token is to our audience?
Tokens are a representation of the amount of text or characters that you use in your request and compute power. It's sort of that in between from the electricity used. It's closer to the electricity used, the CPU cycle, stuff that the AI data centers can create their budgets on, and
Yep.
then your results that are just words and text. It's what's in between that translates that so
One
that they
character
can.
can equal one token, for example, in the line
Right.
of text. If you have 500 characters, you've just used 500 tokens on both the when you type it in, like say you type in a question with 200 characters, that's 200 tokens you sent to the AI. I'm using this example. It can be your mileage may vary. And if it spits out an answer that's 1,000 characters, that might be 1,000 tokens it burns to get your answers. Not even quantifying though the in between of the tokens it used in its own internal debate to figure
Right.
out how to answer your question. So this is going to be a big thing because it's going to be expensive. I think I was reading somewhere that the average cost under Anthropic or OpenAI, don't quote me, for a million tokens is about $3.84. Which sounds like a lot, but I
Seems like a
literally
great
burnt.
deal.
Sounds like a great deal, except I literally burnt 10 million tokens in the last 2 hours trying to figure out how to diagnose something. Like it's costly really quick. There's a real emphasis right now on trying to figure out how to control that cost because companies can see we're not getting away from this. We need to use it. How do we minimize the impact to our budgets? Especially with
Right.
the CapEx stuff we're talking about in terms of gotta spend more money on AI.
And you need a doctorate if you're going to try to figure out that stuff because every model uses a different amount of tokens. That ratio is not the same based on the what you're doing in your requests and what model you're using. And that's where I think this kind of comes into place is when you have lower cost models, slower models, maybe ones that aren't on the cutting edge, they cost less to get up and running and they cost less to operate. And
Well,
that is appealing if they still have decent results.
and we are seeing the business meta move too, because it used to be everyone would pivot to whoever has the most cutting edge model, right? Like that was
Right.
the thing. I want the best model. Well, that's becoming less and less apparent. Good enough is actually a thing entering the vocabulary of people who are building entire companies on large language models, right? Like if you have something that costs 75% of the price of Anthropic Opus 4.7, but produces at 85% of the performance, that's a great trade-off for a lot of these companies, right? Yeah, you technically lose 15% of theoretical max output, but you're saving 25% on your overall costs, and
Yeah.
85% is still darn good. We're cool with that,
Right.
right? Like that is these equations are entering the border. And I think we're going to see in the next 12 months a lot of the, unfortunately, for those of us who've enjoyed the $20 all you can eat chat GPT, subscriptions, especially at least with Anthropic. I think with Claude, they're going to move to a token based subscription model.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to. I think they're going to do away with or they're going to put they already kind of have really serious limits on the quote unquote all you can eat.
Yeah.
All right, last story for this week, and this is the technology story. I'm curious what you have to say about this one. So, AI finally learned that interrupting is a feature, not a bug. And to read the
Yep.
article headline, former OpenAI CTO I can say this totally wrong. Mira Murati, there we go, I got it in the end. It's the new startup. It's called Thinking Machines Lab, and it's building an AI system designed to interact more naturally, more like a conversation, more like a human in real time instead of responding in like a turn-based phrase like we would with the chatbot. Here's my response. Here's your response. Back and forth we go. This can be more about, hey, before you go any further, let me ask you a question kind of style of interaction with human beings. I'm going to stop there. What was your thoughts on this?
This is a logical next step, and this will gather. If this is successful, I have, like a lot of stuff with AI, I have a lot of doubts on how it's going to begin, but it will get better. Um, you know, as you get used to using AI, you forget what the world was like before you even used it at all. How hard it was to think about a task you needed an outcome and analyzing a 50,000 row spreadsheet or something like that. You dedicate weeks to, and then AI comes along and you go, I'm going to feed this to AI and we're going to have some conversations about it and we'll do it in less than a day. But now you get used to that day and you go, I have 5 tasks with different outcomes. I'm just a little bit overwhelmed on even like juggling my priorities. Do I even want to get started on this? A day is a long time, but if you had an AI that's sitting there almost like your realistic assistant,
Jarvis.
that's like,
I
hey,
think I think I think
you do
Jarvis
this.
in my head from like Iron
Yeah,
Man, right? Like, hey Jarvis, I don't have time to deal with this. Go do with XYZ. And then Jarvis can come back and ask questions like how you did in Iron Man, right? Like that's really what I'm envisioning here. Like when you use AI right now, especially in turn-based models, even in an agentic format, it's all based on response stimuli, right? Like do
yeah,
this based on this output or this input, then do Y. And what that requires you to do, like for example, like as an assistant, if I want an AI to be my assistant, I gotta kind of reinvent my workflows to fit that schema, right? Like, hey,
right.
rather than you just being organic, I tell you what to do, I'll frame my requests or how I do things in a way that more matches how organically an AI model engages the world. This could literally just be, okay, man, I got 5 different things. Here's what I need done. You figure it out, and it comes back and asks questions without me needing to prompt it again. And hey, I'm confused. Do you want me to do X or do you want me to do Y? Like that's where I see this going. More like uh, based on our previous story, I'm scared to say this, but more like a human organic relationship.
Yeah. This this is even a step for beyond the turn-based chatbot. This is you sit down at your computer, it's engaged with your camera and it notices that your eyes are a little more closed than they were the last 5 days and you go, oh, did you have a hard time sleeping? Here's an
Do you
adjustment to
want
your
me
day.
on your do you want me on your smart network to brew you a cup of coffee? Like
Right.
that's what I'm like thinking
That,
like that, right? Like,
that's
like
coming.
yeah, it is absolutely coming.
And
And I don't
and
think it's that far away.
yeah, and I would be interested if I know Amazon's toying with AI and they've just created their Amazon Now feature, which funny, this kind of reminds me of a Santa Claus TV series episode thing, Service Now or whatever it was, or Christmas Now, but like getting stuff really fast, within minutes of you ordering it, literally. But you add AI to that and you add something like this that's proactive, you start to get products that show up before you even ask for them because your AI recognized that you were in need of it because your hair's been a little bit looser lately and it knows that you're running out of hair gel. That's where I think that companies are going to love this, consumer
Well,
companies for sure.
I do, but I also think though, because of how I know how AI behaves, if you just let it run with things, it can really go off the rails. We talked about that as well. I get
Mhm.
worried about even less of a barrier between people and AI in terms of maybe getting ready to push the button, and someone reaching out and saying maybe don't, right? Like now you have one less barrier removed between you and AI executing on your behalf. I see a lot of well-intentioned but poorly executed tasks based on very loose parameters, right? You and I both
Certain
understand, and I would tell our
questionable items
audience if
showing
you
up.
get into AI, the quality of your instructions to the AI matters. You
Yeah,
really need to be concise and give it clear instructions of what you want and try to describe the deliverable or the outcome you want to see achieved as much as you can. The more
right.
descriptive you are, the better it is. You give it a vague goal, it really can go off the rails trying to accomplish it.
AI subscribes you to a bunch of new magazines because, it knows you like to read the articles.
I saw. You ever watch Silicon Valley?
No.
Okay, so it's a funny show because it's kind of self-prophetic right now in terms of fulfillment. And right now, I'm loving the memes on the internet because it really is. And the last season, the guy makes a machine learning model called Son of Anton, and he sticks it. And so he tasked it to debug the code because they didn't have enough people working on the code, and it determined that the most efficient way to debug the code was to delete the code. So it deleted all the code, and then they turn around and it's like, "Hey, did someone order meat? Like 3,000 pounds of meat?" And he's like, "Oh, I also tasked Son of Anton on getting us lunch, and it must have determined the most economical way was to buy in bulk." Like, and so instead of getting hamburgers, he said, "I tested hamburgers, and it ordered 3,000 pounds of ground beef." Like, yeah, it's funny, but it's also kind of true. Like, that is
Yep.
exactly what happens when you don't give it very specific details of what you want.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I think I'm open to this. I think it is going to make it a lot easier to see higher adoption. I think it's going to force a lot of organizations right now that are very much in the move fast and figure things out later, to slow it down a little bit and actually think of how do we not burn ourselves to the ground. It's more mainstream.
Hmm. For sure.
All right, final thought. AI is not slowing down. Definitely seeing some major developments. I would say specifically right now in daily life and security. It seems to be the two areas I keep seeing a huge amount of development in. I was reading studies recently, and I think it was something silly like 75% of the population and now engages in AI at daily minimum. And they don't always even realize it. Like, and that kind of
Yeah.
makes sense. If you Google something, what's the first thing you see? A Gemini output. Like, we are moving into a world where it's not you're going to work with AI. It is you are already engaging AI and it already is shaping you. So the more you know about how to interface with it, the better it will be for you, not only professionally, but also personally. That's my take. What about you?
Yeah. The world that we're going to live in 10 years from now is going to look radically different. And how different, I think, for me personally, is if we have a major breakthrough in energy innovation, um, that's going to accelerate. If there is a major breakthrough, game over, and this thing is going to just invade every aspect of our lives.
I still
What
think
are
that if I were a betting man, I'd still bet on localized hardware SLM models being the future. I still will because of energy constraints. I really would.
Mhm.
That's why I think that. But that being said, I also know right now the amount of money incentive there is by energy development. I mean, I've seen startups developing portable. I blended in one word. Portable
Yeah.
nuclear generators, right? Like they're trying to figure out how to make portable nuclear plants right now, so they can just drop them in a local community as opposed to building out infrastructure. Like if someone can actually crack that nut, especially if they can crack battery technology in a way that's way makes it way more efficient, yeah,
Yeah.
I this I
Well,
give I give it 40-60 odds right now that we go localized because of energy constraints, but I wouldn't rule out
yeah.
the energy innovation side yet.
Right. What was that? Armageddon. Get off the nuclear weapon.
I like the one. What was shoot? Was it Megamind, the cartoon where the president put the nuclear button next to the giant button that made coffee, and everyone's like, "No!" Like, whose idea was that? It was yours, sir. Oh, you're fired. I love that clip. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Which button makes coffee? The other big red button next to the nuclear launch button.
We are way smarter than that. Yep.
All right. Well, let's do our outros. I'm Logan Edmonds, CEO TTS.
I'm Patrick Herter, founder of Your Network Security.
You've been tuning in to Artificially Informed. Stay safe, stay aware, and stay knowledgeable out there. AI is changing the world, and we're here to report it week by week. Till next time.